Steve Smith joining us on the show. Steve, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks so much for joining us. And, you had a long and illustrious career. You played for a lot of years in the NBA. And so you, I'm sure, can understand how crazy it is that LeBron is playing this well with this many minutes and years under his belt, reflecting on how you felt at that point in your career. How crazy is it to watch LeBron do this?
It's you scratch your head because so many of us talk about it. Like you said, have played the game, been around. I played 14 years, and I know the last two, you just start to saying, wow, I love it so much, but it just started to enter in your mind, when is it time? And obviously you go out there and play, you gut it through. I think it's just a testament to him, what he does to take care of his body. And it's well documented, not only the time, but I think the science and also obviously financially, it was documented how much he puts back into his body. And then that also shows you his mind and his willpower to be one of the best ever and want to be the best because usually you get a little satisfied, and rightfully so, of everything he's accomplished. It looks like his focus, in my opinion, reminds me of a guy who hasn't won a championship, who hasn't achieved the things he's achieved. To me, it looks like he's kind of gotten lost in that conversation of MVP, which, I think he's been the best player for the last at least 5 or 6 years for sure. And obviously his run before that he wants to get back into that conversation and maybe win another MVP. And also I think he wants to keep winning championship. I think his focus right now is all I need to do is win a championship every year I play. Nothing else is satisfying but winning a championship. And I think that's his motivation.
The Houston Rockets right now are on such a roll. And last night they get another win at home over the Charlotte Hornets. And we knew that offensively they'd be pretty solid. But what we didn't know was that defensively they would improve. They're now a top 6 team in defensive efficiency. What's been the key? How have they improved so much defensively?
I think they acquired some guys, and Chris Paul, that everybody talks about his offense, how they will play together offensively. But on the defensive end, Chris is such a competitor. And I think even the games he missed, having him around the way he competes, P.J. Tucker, Luke Ba-Mute, those guys brought some veteran leadership, some toughness, and I think some guys who are not afraid to speak their mind about what they need to do to get better as a team. And I think that's helped that overall organization. I think it's helped James Harden. And then on the offensive end, I think you give a lot of credit to D'Antoni and James Harden in that offense, because when you're making shots and you have a lead, it's pretty easy to play defense. And I think that's obviously helping them as well. And it's still going to come down, as you know, what they do in the playoffs, and that's where the Houston Rockets and a lot of these great teams are still measured. What do they do in the playoffs?
NBA TV Steve Smith joining us this morning on the show. The Thunder might have gotten a win last night, but Oklahoma City's just been so out of sorts this season, still sub 500. What do you think has been the biggest problem with the Thunder?
I think for me, start off just with, the OK3. I think those guys have to find a way, with each other to how good can I be without the basketball. I think all three guys have always had the basketball and had the basketball in so many possessions to make the play, whether it's the pass, whether it's the shoot. They kind of dictated, on their individual teams. I think now, how good can you be? And that's even Russell Westbrook. How good can you be without the basketball? How can I set picks? How can I move? How can I be effective? And also, how can I play, Robin? How can I be Robin? I mean, all those guys have been Batman. You got to learn how to play Robin at times, on the court when you have such great players. And I think also Billy Donovan has to take a little heat. I mean, if you watch their offense, there's a lot of standing around. And I think that's where they're easy to guard. I mean, no matter what, you have great players. And I said it last night, this team has so many different offensive weapons. They take too many contested shots. And obviously they're talented enough to hit it, but they should be able to, three guys that can draw a double team, so somebody should be able to open and kick the basketball around so somebody else can get a better shot. They're shooting such a low percentage for a team that has too many guys that can really score the basketball.
NBA TV Steve Smith joining us here on the show, NBA champ, NBA All-Star. Let's go back to 1987, okay? Let's go back 30 years ago, and let's take you back to Michigan State. If your freshman year at Michigan State, you weren't playing much, and your dad said, you know what, screw this, You're not getting PT. We're going to put you across seas. You'll be playing Lithuania. Want to get you bulked up and ready to go and playing against grown men to get you ready for the NBA. How would you have felt?
First of all, I wouldn't have been ready. You know what I mean? I think and just in my case, obviously taking a challenge of playing the game of basketball, I never was afraid of that. But I think for me, I wouldn't have been ready to go overseas to play at that point in my career. I think every individual situation is totally different. And I think if, you look at the Ball family situation, the one thing I will say about him, I think he feels he's doing what's best for his family. And the thing is, I can tell everybody there's a lot of things you can agree or disagree with him, but the one thing I can say is he's a very good dad. We're not talking about a basketball dad. We're just talking about a dad.
So that's interesting, okay? I don't want to hijack this show about LeVar Ball because sometimes he does that, but some people would look at him putting a junior in high school as his son across seas when he's still in high school and say that's not being a good dad. So how do you define being a good dad then?
Well, I would totally disagree. There are so many students here who are playing, there's a high school here close in Atlanta. There's, 3 or 4 kids that's come over to play, and they've come over in the 9th grade. So, I don't look at that as not being, a great parent. There are so many kids, that go overseas for, not even talking about sports, for different programs. So I think for, as a, outside looking in, just because there's a kid at that age being able to go over, overseas to look at his dream or to further his career what's best, I don't look at that as a bad parent.
Okay, that's interesting. That's a fair point. So you don't look at LeVar Ball and say he's just simply exploiting his sons to expand his own brand?
No, I do not. I mean, because if you look at it, everything he's done. Now, there's some things I disagree with of how he's marketed himself or his son, but I think as overall, I think that's where, as society, we're starting to put him as a category as a bad dad, and that's the point where I say he's not a bad dad. You can disagree with some ways he might be, if you want to say the management or the marketing part. You can have a conversation on that, but I don't think he's a bad dad on putting it in what he thinks is putting his kids in a situation where there's so many people have done it. There's so many different, not just in sports and on all different careers where kids do leave home for a better life in other places.
Fair enough. Steve Smith joins us from NBA TV. Everybody's excited about the Philadelphia 76ers' future. And I wonder, from where you sit right now, was it worth it? All of those years of losing, maybe all of those years of tanking, was it worth it for where the Sixers are right now?
I look at it, I guess I'm old school. I look at now and people will say, well, you got to tear it down to win. I'm always in a situation where I want to make my team better, to be better than they were last year, and I don't look at it as like where you have to tank to get better. I think you just keep putting out a great product. You have in a situation where we're trying to get better, we're developing. So I think there's got to be some rules in place for teams that are tanking, that's obviously tanking. And I don't know what that be. I throw out some things where if you don't make the playoffs and whether it's 4 or 5 years, you're not able to. And, I know there's a lot of times teams have had injuries, but we have to get away from teams, intentionally, losing games to be able to better their position in drafts.
Steve Smith, former All-Star and NBA champion, analyst for NBA TV. You watch him on NBA Game Time throughout the season. Now, on NBA TV, they got 2 really cool games coming up. Carmelo's return to the Garden as a member of the Thunder. That's Saturday, 7:30 Eastern time. Then Lakers-Warriors. That's Kobe's retirement ceremony from Staples. Monday night, 10:30 Eastern time. Both games on NBA TV. Steve, always fun to catch up, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you.